Hi, Desert Boy here. I just thought I would say hope you had a nice holiday and everything was safe and had a good visit with family and friends, and I hope you're enjoying your new year. I thought I'd kick the year off because I've done some different videos, especially on lever actions recently, especially with the 38 or 357 38 Henry, and might have seen my 22 Henry in a couple of them, and especially the 4570, which is the one that's got the little shorter barrel. It's more the brush gun. So I thought, let's talk about 4570 today, because I haven't really talked about it in detail, or maybe why that was a caliber that I selected, since I'm not really a hunter like most people that would really want something like that. So let's get started and talk about the Henry H010 4570. Let's take a little close-up of the 4570. It's got the rubber recoil pad and the pistol grip. The Picatinny rail is installed as not standard. The semi-buckhorn sights there, that's part of the standard gun, American walnut. And then this brass bead sight, that's the normal front sights, along with the tube-fed magazine and the rounded barrel for this particular model on the H010. It also has swivel mounts, which you can see I currently have a sling on it that I did purchase from Henry as well. So if we kind of take a little fade out, you can see it's a nice looking, it's not a bad size. I won't say that it's light, it's 7 pounds. The more full-size one, which is 22-inch barrel, this is an 18.43-inch barrel, is a bit heavier. I think it comes in more at 8 pounds, and of course it has a brass receiver instead of a steel receiver in the octagon barrel. Both of them have capacity, according to Henry, of 4 rounds, and it also has a more straight stock than this one does. Just a couple of things to think about. And from the reverse angle, you can see the receiver and the hammer. Just to show you the other side, maybe so you can see that the receiver a little better there. As always, whenever we're looking at firearms, we always want to check them safe. Just to show you it's safe, I have the magazine tube removed. Right here, it's a brass tube. If there are any rounds in there, they will go out. But we can also cycle the action. How nice and smooth that is, to show that indeed this Henry rifle is indeed unloaded. So, just as a part of our safety. So most of us have a reason or a story why we might pick a particular caliber. For me, as I said, I'm not a hunter. Most people have these because they're hunters. For me, I think I just was fascinated with that caliber more from a younger age, just like the 270 Winchester. And it was, with the 270, it was because some of my friends had some Remington 700 BDL models, and I had the opportunity to shoot those. I really liked that round. Even though my father was really a sporterized Mauser 30-06 man for his choice in deer rifle and hunting. The 270 became a favorite of mine, as I've done with the Howa review. But the 4570 kind of came about. As you know, it goes back into the history of the West. The cavalry used it. Many people used it for hunting, buffalo and all kinds of things. And it was originally, the way I understand it, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me, but it was 70 grains of black powder, essentially 45 caliber. And I think a 405 grain or 500 grain bullet. So a lot of punch to it. This particular one being a shorter barrel, of course, it's more of a brush gun, and it's going to have a little bit less muzzle velocity than probably some of the ammunition we might talk about. But it still can move them down there pretty good if you get into some of the higher power ammunition. And you know it when it leaves when you pull the trigger. So anyway, so I kind of got an interest in that. once again, talking to some of my friends, particularly some of my friends that, you know, were wealthier. They would go on, you know, hunting trips where they went after big game, and the 45-70 seemed to be the favored gun for that. And so I just had an interest in that. I thought, well, it's a really interesting firearm. And I was traveling with my dad later on as a young adult. We were going through Wyoming. We stopped in Fort Jim Bridger. And there's a lot of history of this gun and the West there. And, you know, from then on, I just kind of really felt like I really liked that particular firearm and was really interested in having one. Later on in life, when I went and bought, you know, after I kind of initially got into firearms again, I got a 22 Henry, because I really hadn't really planned on getting lever action, but I liked it so much that I decided that, you know, I'd like to have 45-70. And the main reason why I bought the 45-70 and my first 270 at the same time, one, essentially for hunting, you know, kind of all-purpose hunting, you know, deer, medium hunting and things. And the main reason for the 45-70 is I thought I might move to the Northwest or somewhere like that, where there might actually be bear or moose or larger creatures. And I wanted to have something that could protect me and my family in the event we ever encountered something like that. And I knew the 45-70 cartridge was capable of doing that. So that's what really, you know, led me to doing that. So remember, these are just my stories, my opinions, my thoughts, why I do these things. You need to do your own research. You need to check up and see, you know, what works best for you. Maybe you're planning on doing some hunting, maybe different calibers better. There's smaller ones, there's larger ones. But you need to do your own research, talk to your own firearm experts. Remember, I'm just a hobbyist and enthusiast, you know, and I'm just kind of sharing my personal, you know, kind of my opinions and thoughts in reference to my experiences and what works for me. So you need to do your own checking into all that, and then talk to your gun dealers and find out from your friends and family, especially if you're going to go hunting or something. Find out from them and go with somebody. You know, if I was going to go and do hunting finally, because since I haven't gone since I was a kid, you know, I'd definitely go with somebody that was experienced, you know, maybe get a guide, especially if I'm somewhere where I'm not familiar or something like that. Anyway, so that's kind of my story around the 45-70. So, as I said, this Picatinny rail is not standard. That's something I added. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen the red dot and the 3x magnifier used on that. It does have a nice recoil pad. Once again, it's about 7.08 pounds. It's 120 twist rate. It's 18.43 inches long on the barrel. It's got a bead front sight. It's got a semi-buckhorn rear sight. It's got a 14-inch length of pull. And it's got these swivel studs on it, which are pretty handy. Overall length is 37.5 inches. It's obviously drilled in tap for a scope. If you had a scope on it, it would be, I think, 63B Weaver. This is a Picatinny rail I put on here so I could maybe use a red dot or some other kind of scopes that would fit on that. It's American walnut, and of course it's made out of steel. And so it's got this nice ventilated recoil pad, which, believe me, you need with some of the ammunition. It has a transfer bar safety, and it has a 4-round tubular magazine. So anyway, you know, it's good for, you know, target. It's good for hunting. It's good for being at the range. You could do deer. You could do elk. You can do boar. You can do bears. You can do moose, according to Henry's website, and I think their range it recommends like around 100 yards. This round, of course, is huge in most cases, and it's going to have some change in trajectory as you fire it because it's a heavy round. So I think I've rambled long enough on that. Let's talk a little bit maybe about the ammunition. Ammunition for this. I started with cowboy action ammo because I understood that to be much lower recoil. It's a good place to start. I didn't want to, you know, injure myself as I got trying to figure out how to hold it properly and shoot the gun. There's more powerful ammos for hunting. You get up into that. I use one of my for cowboy action is one called Ultramax, and it's cowboy action, and it's ammo that looks like this here. It's a round nose flat point, as they call it, because remember, this is a lever action gun, so your ammo, you can't use a real rounded or pointed ammo in it. It has to be a particular design to prevent the magazine from, igniting the next one due to the recoil. So this one here I particularly like. It's 405 grains. Another one that Garrett makes, and Garrett ammo is super hard cast hammerhead ammo, so it's really powerful. My understanding is there's different kind of, I think it has to do with how much lead, and I think there's metals don't quote me on this, but I think like antimony and others that control the hardness. And this one here is called their 4570 Springfield ammo, and this 4570 Springfield ammo is made for most 4570s. You need to really go to the Garrett website and really read about it. And then probably the next one, it's a little bit medium power, more medium power, is these are 4570 government, they call it. That's technically the name of the cartridge anyway. This is a Remington core lock that's 405 grain, and then this is another Garrett one that's called their Garrett 4570. We'll talk a little more detail in another video about the velocity and things like that. Then there's other ones. As you get more powerful, you get up into the Federal and the Lever Revolution, which are lighter rounds. They're more like 300 grains versus these other ones, which are like 420 or 405. And then you get into, like the Barnes Vortex, which is more of a hollow point kind of copper. And then ultimately there's a 4570 from Garrett that I have that's a lower end, what they call hammerhead plus P. So these ammos, when you get up here, they really recoil. So you really gotta expect that. Do I recommend this gun for most people, or for everyone? No, I do not. I think once again, you got to do your own research. You got to decide if you're really interested in something like a 4570. This is not a gun for everybody. It's something that you need to go talk to people that really understand them, and you need to find out if you really want to try that out. Most people start off with their 22s. They maybe work their way, towards maybe some lighter ones, a 243 or something like that, or maybe even a 30-30. But as caliber increases, so does recoil in most cases. So depending on what load you have. So once again, for me, it's more historical interest and just personal preference. And so you need to really check it out. If you do come to like it, and find you like it for hunting, and got stories to tell or comments to make, I'm always interested to hear what people do with it. I try to read up on what other people use it for. These kind of guns are very popular in New Zealand and Australia, from what I've seen online, looking at other world things, because they have kind of very restricted. A lot of them have Marlins more than Henrys, but they have a real restricted type of guns they can own. Generally, they're lever action or bolt action. But that's a whole other discussion. We hope we don't get that to that place. In this country, we're limited to those choices. And remember, appreciate the fact that you have the rights you do as an American, and be safe out there, whatever you're doing. This is Reed Desert Boy. Thanks again. Well, as always, just to emphasize, be safe out there, whatever you're doing.